if I saw another day, only to scream into the night. Nothing ever tries to change, even if I want to realize. 'Cause I've been sitting here, same old ways, taking off without the same mistake. Darling, will you go away? It won't be as simple for you.
Yo guys, it's Old Man G. I'm back again with another daily episode of Manchester United Transfer News Daily. Remember guys, if you're new to the channel, remember to like, share and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter, Unite X. Smash the notification. We're also on Twitch as well at Red Devil Studio, so click the link in the description below. And I have a new channel called Red Marvel. It's where I do a lot of entertainment, TV, game, anime, comic, all that jazz, reviews. So head there, subscribe, links in the description. I'll be posting a lot more content on there in due course. And hopefully I'll be covering a lot of other football news as well. Shout out to everyone who's watching in the comments. Shout out to Adam Talk Sports. Thank you for joining in. And obviously Footy Live as well. Tom or Transfer Tom, I'll be sending you a link in about 5-10 minutes where I just dissect this news so we can just get a bit more information from Twitter's transfer specialist. So yeah, but anyway, let's really get into it because I mean, the thumbnail, as you can see from the graphic, is really the sort of big news that's been going around the works for a while, which is basically Raphael Varane personal terms agreed. Varane personal terms agreed. Now this isn't coming directly from Fabrizio Romano, but it is coming from Patrick Berghan, and Fabrizio Romano did kind of give a bit of an update yesterday, but basically from at Sport One, he's saying Raphael Varane is on the verge to join United. The 28-year-old centre-back agreed with MFC on personal terms, and that's the key, that personal terms. And we said several times that personal terms were never really going to be a big issue for Manchester United. Regarding Varane, Varane clearly looks like he wants to leave, wants a new challenge, etc., and that's not going to be an issue. Contract until 2026. That's a big. So Varane is 28, I think now. So 2026. So from this year, so that's a 5-year deal. That's a 5-year deal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he'd be here till 33. So he's in his prime. I think if that was the case, I think that's a pretty much a good shout. Now the clubs have to find a solution. Real Madrid want a bit more than 50 million euro. All parties confident the deal will happen soon. So I think there was another Spanish outlet said that Real Madrid are wanting about 58 million euros for Varane, which probably comes out to be about 50 million, 49 million pounds sterling, which, to be honest, I still think is pretty good for Raphael Varane. Generally, I still think that that's a very good deal for Varane, but United, I don't think would want to pay more than 50 million euros, which is equivalent to 40 million. Where, when you think about it, and as someone was saying, bantering me, the other time, I was thinking, okay, Arsenal are going to be spending, 50 million on Ben White, 50 million pounds sterling. So that's equivalent to 60. Think about it this way. Arsenal are going to pay 60 million to sign Ben White, and United are going to pay potentially 50 million euros. So 40 million, a 20 million gap difference on signing up for it. It's crazy. One is a Champions League centre back, the other is a Championship centre back. It is what it is. But the last point is all parties confident that the deal will happen soon. And I think that's the key thing here, really, is that if it doesn't look or it doesn't sound. The impression I get is that there's obstruction from it. It sounds like both Real Madrid and Manchester United want the deal done effectively. Like, this is not something that's going to drag, and United, usually, from what I've seen with United's transfer policy, usually when United are effectively the only team interested in a player, that I just don't think that that we tend to struggle. And from what I can see, especially now that I think at PSG not gone to Ramos had not gone to PSG, then you might have seen some a battle with PSG, maybe more because obviously it's French, etc. But I think now, no, I don't think you're going to be seeing that at all. I think that United are probably going to be clean sailing for Raphael Varane going forward. Let me just. Adam Talk says the deal for Varane, they can't mess up. Well, they shouldn't. 50 million for Varane, it may price. Yeah, well, this is also something. It's actually less because I think that the amount paid for Ben White is in pounds sterling, whereas the amount paid for Varane is in euros. So it's actually less money, considerably less. Who's I said Varane will make his Shadeva switch when he speaks with the board. However, his things he will turn down the latest contracts offer, which is Tom. Tom, you confident the deal will be done, but it all depends on Varane. Right, I'm going to just invite Tom on. I'm going to send you the link, Tom. So you could just give us a bit more. I'll check that. We'll just give us a bit more info around the deal. So I've sent you the link. But yeah, guys, let me know what your thoughts are on the Raphael Varane deal. Do you think that United? I personally, for me, I'm probably in the 90% club because I believe usually when Manchester United are the only team that are interested in a player, we tend to be able to get the deal done. When there are other teams that are interested, much like you saw with Haaland, for example, even Bellingham, we tend to just sort of lose out. And I don't really see any other clubs that seem to be interested in Raphael Varane right now. Chelsea don't seem to be looking at Raphael Varane. PSG, like I said, they signed Ramos, so I don't think they're going to be pursuing another defender right now, especially for the money that Real Madrid want, which is probably around about 50 million euro. So I just think that we're probably going to get the deal done, to be honest. Right. Let's go bring on Tom, our transfer specialist, on. Tom, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. How's you, mate?
I'm doing fine. Back to try and do these regular transfer shows. And hopefully I'm going to start sort of just generic football transfer news around Europe, shows at some point soon. So, but yeah, what are your thoughts on this Varane deal? And are United going to be able to get their man?
Well, like you said with the with Varane, if Ramos wouldn't have signed for PSG, I know for 100% fact they would have been in for Varane. He was the main target up to the point when Ramos came a free agent. The feeling with PSG was Ramos was going to sign a new contract with Real Madrid, and it didn't materialise. And the feeling with Varane is he wants a new challenge. He wants to leave. Everything that's been reported is 100% fact. He's done everything. In his eyes, he's done everything there is to do at Real Madrid. He's won league titles. He's won Champions Leagues. He's won a World Cup. Probably the biggest thing you can win as a player. Only other thing you could have probably had maybe is the Euros. Maybe you can do that again in a couple of years' time. But a new challenge would be something like the Premier League where it's competitive. And at the moment, you can't really argue in saying it's not the best league because you've had consistent winners of the Champions League have come from England in the last 3 years. And you've had 2 Champions League finals that have been dominated by English clubs. When it was Liverpool, Tottenham, and when it was City, Chelsea last season. And Varane going to Manchester United, like you put up there, personal terms agreed. Nothing's been agreed as of yet, but they are making an offer towards Varane in the coming days, and they are discussing with Real Madrid over the terms and over different various clauses in the contract and stuff. Around about 50 million euros, 60 million euros is sort of the figure Real Madrid will ask. And when you start hearing these sort of things where the prices are starting to get involved, you can kind of get the image or the impression that Real Madrid are looking less and less likely to being able to sign him up on a new contract. Because if you start hearing money getting splashed about, that's basically, should we say, the signal for a decision's either been made by the board or the player, and the player's not made the decision yet. So, put 2 and 2 together, it's basically a board decision that's been made.
Fair enough. And I mean, I guess maybe maybe there's a different angle, and I'm probably going to speak to my Madrid fans about this. But I think what surprises me about this deal is that Madrid have basically let arguably their first choice centre backs leave in the same window. How do you, which is Ramos and Varane, those were the first choice centre backs last season.
Yep.
I know that they were both obviously they were both going into their Ramos was in his final year of his contract, and Varane is going into his final year. But what do you see? Like, how do you see Madrid coping? Do you hear anything regarding them getting replacements? SSB in the chat. Hope you're doing well, buddy. It's 11 o'clock in the UK, but I'm sure where you are, man, it's early. But thank you for joining in, man. I appreciate it. I'm going to be trying to stream a bit more. Adam says, Tom, is it true Spurs are in? What? Tom, what do you think about this?
No. Spurs are wanting Jules Koundé if you're wanting a centre back target for them. They don't want Varane.
That's. I mean, Spurs unfortunately are the new Arsenal as this is right now. It's getting peak for Arsenal right now. If I'm honest, it really is. But yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Like, have you heard anything about? Because obviously they signed David Alaba, and I know they have obviously Militao playing, but do you hear anything about Madrid going for any other centre backs at all? Or
well, I know that with Madrid they were looking at Jules Koundé a couple of months ago. They were very, very interested in Koundé, especially sort of around the time when the Copa del Rey was happening, and he scored that goal in the game against Barcelona, which unfortunately Sevilla didn't obviously make it to the final in the end, and they got beaten on the second leg. But when there was around that sort of time, there was heavily interested in Koundé. There was the sort of figures of around 50-60 million pounds were being tossed around by Sevilla. I would expect Koundé to probably leave either this summer or the following summer. Tottenham are interested in Koundé. However, when you put Real Madrid into the conversation, regardless of money, the attraction or the appeal of playing for Real Madrid is a superior offer to possibly turn down, shall we say, even regardless of money or whatnot. And Real Madrid are in the financial crisis that they're in now, but there's many other options that they can go for. Pau Torres is another name that's being applauded by a lot of Spanish fans, and I'm sure a lot of Real Madrid fans wouldn't mind taking someone like a Pau Torres in there, even if it's just as a stopgap for a couple of years till you find that real replacement. But I think they've got a massive problem by letting both Ramos and Varane go in the same window.
Yeah,
you would have probably expected, and a lot of people who I've worked with and I've spoken to, I've always expected that if one of them left, then the other one would stay. If Ramos left, then Varane would stay. If Varane leaves, then Ramos would stay. And to let both of your centre-back partnership go in the financial crisis that you're in, where you haven't exactly got the financial gains as of right now, rebuilding the Santiago Bernabeu, it's not exactly going to be easy to try and haggle down teams in a market where not just Real Madrid are going to be fishing for players. There's going to be a lot of clubs that want to fish for players, mainly the Premier League, just because of the success it's had over the last couple of years and stuff. But I think if they can get in that one centre back, Real Madrid, I think with David Alaba, even if they play him at centre back, or if they bring in Koundé or Pau Torres, whoever it is, I think they'll be decent enough to play for a club like Real Madrid. Is the best way I can put it.
I mean, SSB talks about Nacho being so very obviously is 31, but I guess you're right. They do have that, and obviously Spurs is a mess. I heard Bale isn't coming back. Yeah, but I think Bale is going to be staying at Madrid. I don't think he's coming back to Spurs.
He's not
them soon. And to be honest, can you blame him? To be honest, because Spurs is a bit of a crap show right now. So that's why I know. That's why I say. That's why I say that I'm not worried about Manchester United. I think any United fan thinking that United isn't going to get top 4 next season needs to really kind of look at what is basically going around with other teams, because Spurs and Arsenal aren't even touching top four next season like this season. And really, the only real threat is Leicester, possibly. And even then, it might be inconsistent. So really, as far as I'm concerned, even going into the season, top four is already secure. The situation now is like, can we actually make a proper title challenge? And that's what this transfer window is. It's not about, oh, can we continue to progress or develop or what have you. We finished second in the league. We were top of the league for a few months. And then obviously we collapsed in the Europa League final, going on to Champions League. So this team actually mount a sustained title challenge over a season, and can this team go deeper into the Champions League? That should be the objective this season. And if we sign Varane, Sancho, and obviously we'll get our midfielder situation, we should be expected to do that because, quite frankly, the competition in this league, okay, yeah, Chelsea, I'm still not convinced. I know Tuchel's won a Champions League, but I'm still not convinced about how he will manage Chelsea over a 38-game season, in my opinion, especially against smaller teams, and especially if they don't get a striker and they were reliant on Timo Werner as their number 9 again. City, you don't know. I still think they're going to be favourites for it, but again, have they made any major signings? Are they going to get a striker? Fernandinho and so on. And Liverpool, who knows? So, yeah, I think the United would need to push on this season. I think that if we can get Varane and if we can get at least a central defensive midfielder, then we might be able to do something from there. I mean, do you think similar? Oh, Tom, you there? Oh, he's got his mics on. It's around. Okay, yeah. So all in all,
sorry about that, G.
no worries, no worries. I said. So do you think similar?
Similar with what? I just had to go answer my door.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. No, I was just sort of saying, do you think that if United get the players that we're linked with, Varane, and we can sign a CDM, that we can basically mount a title challenge? Sorry, S&B says Chelsea's getting linked with everyone right now. Their fans on cloud now. And they are. Whether or not they'll buy them, because I can't remember who tweeted. Was it Fabrizio or someone that tweeted that basically that Dortmund aren't even going to entertain any offers for
Christian Falk.
Christian Falk was it? Yeah. For Erling Haaland. And I did say a while. I said I remember Dortmund saying that if they sell Sancho this year, which they have, they're not going to sell Sancho and Haaland in one transfer window. And I know a lot of people say, oh, but of course Chelsea would sign Chelsea would Dortmund would accept a mega offer from Chelsea because his release clause is going down next season to 75. But what people don't seem to appreciate is that Dortmund will have a bidding war. I anticipate. So yes, his release clause will be 75, but there'll be other players, other teams, obviously wanting to basically outbid other teams because of that release clause. Does that make sense? So I think Dortmund would rather there be a bidding war for Haaland next season, have him for one more season, than sell him to Chelsea for maybe 100 million, for example, when they could probably get more. Who knows? Chiesa, yeah, that's not helping. Adam Chelsea put a bid in. Right, okay. Chelsea put a bid in for Haaland. I think Sancho will be. Yeah, well, that's another thing. I mean, do you know when Sancho is going to be announced? When is that going to be? Do you know if or when that's going to be happening?
Well, everybody who's reported it about the medical and everything, medical's passed everything. It was just basically the announcement video. When you release a new kit, you kind of want that just to be like the main star attraction, so to speak. When they released the new kit, yes, I think it was yesterday or the other day, they released the new kit for next season. And that was the main so to speak attraction of it. But when you've got a deal like you've got with Sancho, let's just put it like he's going to sell shirts regardless of transfer fee or whatever. The name, the sort of the genre of player that he is, an attacking player, kind of bodes well for the marketing team in terms of selling T-shirts or football shirts and whatnot with Manchester United and sponsorship deals and stuff and so forth. So I would probably expect it to be in the next couple of days. There's no official day, but when you've got a big deal like this, you kind of want to take your time with it to make sure you get everything, so to speak, right. In terms of putting out, an announcement video, the advertising side of it, the excitement that it'll build. We can say all we want. A couple of months ago, the Glazer family and the board wanted to ship Manchester United under and go into a European Super League. So they kind of got to make up for lost time, really. And with Joe Glazer doing the fan forums from, for the first time in 16 years, having fan contact with Manchester United fans, it does bode well in terms of you're going to get the players that you want. I think you said to a lot of Manchester United fans, like if I said to you, G, go back 2 or 3 years and I said to you, Man United are close to getting Sancho, they're close to getting Varane, you'd have probably laughed at me if I would have said that. Whereas now in the sort of situation where they've got to make up for lost time, they've got to build that fan trust back, getting players like Varane and stuff and Sancho mounting that challenge. But if I had to say about probably an announcement, I would probably say in the next 2 to 3 days, maybe even sooner. But with announcements, you don't tend to know until like bang on the minute, and then it just blows up anyway. It'll blow up Twitter as soon as it comes out anyway. So.
Yeah, no, and like I said, also S&B. That's a good point actually. So, in fact, let's quickly go on to that. Actually, I'm going to quickly change my banner for a second because I really wanted to just briefly touch on that situation. Just 2 seconds. This up before. Right. Yes. So yeah, let's just quickly shift from Varane and actually talk about Kieran Trippier. So I just noticed a comment from SMB. Yeah, what's the Trippier situation? I heard reports about him to Manchester United as well. Do you know a bit about the Trippier situation, transfer, Tom? Like, obviously Atletico want to play hardball. And any news about that?
Yeah. Well, the player wants to come back to England. He's been out with Real Madrid now for a couple of seasons. He's worked under an amazing, not just manager but coach. The system, etc. He's developed him as a player. I know a lot of Atletico fans would be sad if he did end up leaving. He was integral to the team last season, not just in terms of the first team, but even if you want to use him as squad depth. And Kieran Trippier likes the idea of coming back to England and possibly even to Manchester United, where there's that title challenge, cloud, name being held over them, and bringing in players like Sancho, Varane, possibly even Trippier is cover for Paran Wan-Bissaka. And I know a lot of Manchester United fans are wanting that midfielder to come in, whether that's, Rice, Camavinga, just speaking off of names. But with Trippier, the talks with Atletico Madrid between Manchester United and Atletico Madrid hit a brick wall a couple of days ago. There's Man United have a price that they want to pay, 20 million euros. Atletico Madrid have a price that they want, upwards of 35, 40 million euros. So when you put it into perspective between the clubs, there's going to have to be some sort of something's going to have to give the hand if it's going to be Atletico for the price. Otherwise, they'll lose him for free. But I'm not that convinced that Atletico Madrid would be that properly bothered if they did lose him for that much. It's not like you're going to lose, should we say, when for Real Madrid they're going to lose Varane, probably one of the best defenders in the world. Kieran Trippier would obviously add that squad depth to Manchester United and build that competition for Paran Wan-Bissaka. But what I've been told about Kieran Trippier is if he is going to come to Manchester United, he's not got that mindset of I'm going to be sitting on the bench. He wants to be pushing and challenging to play in that right back position, even if it is bumping Paran Wan-Bissaka out of the team. He wants that rivalry, he wants that fight there. These are the sort of right players that I think at clubs like Manchester United, you need to have these sort of characters and players who have that determination to want to challenge, even if there's going to be that competition there and the odds are stacked against you. There was the rumour about a day ago or so with Alex Telles to Roma, then it was into Milan. I fully expect Manchester United to keep hold of him, and I would expect the exact same with Kieran Trippier. And if Kieran Trippier goes into the final year of his contract, going into next season where he'll be a free agent, I would probably expect Manchester United to be one of the clubs that would put an offer on the table for him, even if it's just as a squad depth player. And it works out better for Manchester United because they've not had to pay anything to get him. But
Yeah,
it's just a case of we'll have to see.
I get it in United because, to be honest, paying 30 million for a 31-year-old is probably not really a wise idea, especially if this 31 is going to be a backup. So I get that in United stance, and I get why I don't think United should really, if Atletico are going to play hardball, I don't think United should push it, because there are alternatives out there that could be less, or there'd be maybe a bit more longevity. That has been pointed about. The whole Griezmann thing is an interesting one. So, because I'm not entirely sure that, the whole what's happening in the Liga with, and I can see almost why this is now becoming more apparent, why the Super League was almost like necessary.
Especially
because
the Spanish clubs, yeah.
Exactly. So I think the Spanish clubs, really kind of lost out, and even the Italian clubs to an extent, but certainly the Spanish clubs really lost out on this, because Madrid's obviously Bernabeu project, and Barcelona with their wages in a mess. Atletico going to look like they're fine financially, but the Barcelona situation looks like an absolute mess. Messi has even taken, I think, a wage. I think it's capped his wages. So which I think is
50% cut over 5 years. Yeah.
Which I think is insane, when, to be honest, there'll be a lot of clubs to be willing to pay his wages to just even sign him. But he's settled at Barcelona, so that's fine. It's on him. But I just think the fact that, in order to sort of sign the thing, they're going to have to try and sell Griezmann. And essentially, they're sort of wondering, I think it's Griezmann to back to Atletico Madrid.
And then Saul Niguez
to Barcelona, which it just seems to be a deal purely based on finance, not on need, to be honest. Because I don't really know where Saul would fit in Barcelona, and it's only really just for Griezmann too. But what I don't know is how Atletico Madrid will fund Griezmann's wages, really, because Griezmann has to take a pay cut, a massive pay cut, to go back to Atletico Madrid. Aren't going to pay Griezmann £600,000 a week.
No,
especially after he hood-ratted his way to Barcelona, so like he's they're not, if he's Atletico Madrid are doing Griezmann a favor. The other thing as well is that, like, they have João Felix, so this is the thing, like, both deals make 0 sense from a team building player point of view. It's just pure finance, and it's very, very strange. Shout out to Red Devil Labs in the chat as well. People can say what you want about the EPL, but at the end of the day, it's the healthiest league out of all the big leagues right now. And that is a good point. He's not wrong. And I've said this. I've said this for a while. I do believe, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I do believe that at some point in the future, there is going to be a financial crisis in football. There is going to be that's going to have a trickle effect globally, where clubs are just going to go into bankruptcy administration, because you cannot sustain this amount of money, high prices, indefinitely. I think what Neymar did with the whole smashing at the transfer thing, with the 200 million, with all that, I think that completely messed up transfers in the football market. And yes, okay, if you have a sheikh I can spend tons of money, that's great. But again, is that in of itself sustainable? And eventually, if the oil or whatever it is that you use to buy money that runs out, you don't have that. It's I don't know. I just think that at some point you're going to see a lot of clubs suffering in the future, and you're already seeing what's happening, as we said, in La Liga, where teams are struggling financially. You know what I mean?
Mm. It's mainly big teams as well, with Madrid and Barcelona. You've just touched on there with the financial crisis. This is why I've said that I wouldn't expect any high-profile signings from either of the clubs, unless it's going to be swap deals, where you're going to have, for example, there was the talk of Varane was going to be swapped for Pogba. Not going to happen in a million years. Exactly the same with Barcelona with Griezmann, like you said, with Griezmann and Atletico. In theory, Atletico are doing Griezmann a favour by even wanting to take him back. So I think you really should be thankful for that, with the way that it all ended with the manager and the board and stuff, with the whole fallout. And even to want him back, I think that should have at least some sort of respect from Griezmann's point of view toward Atletico. But like you said with the financial situation, every club's been hit financially, but mainly a lot more of the bigger clubs who have the bigger capacity stadiums with advertisement, fans, sponsorship, marketing. All that's been blown up, and you'll hear about 60-70% decreases in sales or ad revenues or whatnot from broadcasting because there's no fans there, there's no atmosphere. And when you don't have this, then you're going to have sponsors pull out, etc. Manchester United have obviously changed sponsors more recently, where it's not Chevrolet anymore; it's Team View. So,
speaking of which, that new kit looks so just so. I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe the new kit, the design, it'll look a bit, but I did somehow. For me, it even looks worse. Like it just looks so plain and just so it just looks. I stick right now. I just stick to just the training kits and stuff with Aeon and stuff like that because they look much better, yeah. So just I guess first and foremost, do you think that United can get this Trippier deal done, or do you think it's too much?
No, I think they can get it done. I think Manchester United's priority coming into the summer window was get the right winger in. There was only ever one name that was for that position. That was Jadon Sancho. Exactly the same with the centre half. They've always wanted a centre half this summer. It was Varane was the main target. The backup targets behind him were either Christian Romero, Koundé, or Pau Torres. Either one of those would have been selected if it's not going to be Varane. Exactly the same with the midfield situation. Ollie wants to revert back to a 4-3-3 system. In playing that system, he wants to have two attacking midfielders, so to speak, box-to-box kind of midfielders, and that would probably fill the void for Fernandes and Pogba. And then you would obviously have to fill the void by getting in a CDM or a player to play there, whether he's going to promote somebody from the youth, I don't know, Galbraith, or possibly, Garner or somebody might get an opportunity there during pre-season. Who knows? But the main name for that position was Camavinga. And with the situation where PSG are stacked with midfielders, and that would be one of his places that he would ideally like to go. If it's not there, then it's if it's not PSG, then it's the Premier League. And the only clubs that are in for him right now in the Premier League are Manchester United. And with the sort of position that they're doing, with the sort of players that they're signing, the players that are already at the club, if you're going to work in a midfield, you're going to work in a midfield with two world-class midfielders, Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes. It's not exactly, it wouldn't take that much convincing to play week in, week out on a field with those two players in front of you if you're going to play as the sitting player. And like with this Trippier deal, Trippier was never going to be a priority, signing, or right-back competition was never a priority up until the point where Manchester United saw what the competition did for Luke Shaw with Alex Telles. As soon as you see that happen on one side and you think, well, who we've got on the right-hand side, we haven't actually got anybody putting real pressure on Aaron Wan-Bissaka to perform, not just his defensive duties, which he does absolutely amazing with, but attacking-wise as well. And I think Trippier would give you that different outlook if you want to go and do that. But I would possibly expect Manchester United to possibly get the Varane deal over the line, and then we'll see where the wind blows. If it's going to blow back to the Atletico talks and try and come to a compromise with them, or if it's going to be move on to possibly the midfield target that I've discussed about.
Fair. Right, let's just quickly sort of move on because and I guess it's the last thing I want to just sort of discuss is basically Ollie's style of play. Now, this was something that I think I saw. I think it was I can't remember the tweet actually. I don't think it was Duncan Castles, but it was
somebody asked about the 4-3-3 system.
Yes, exactly. If I could just remind me who the
I think it was the Telegraph. I can't remember who it was.
It was on Telegraph. Which essentially seems to spell the end. Well, the impression anyway is that it will spell the end for MCFRED. And I don't know whether, because a lot of people said that part of the reason why we played MCFRED. And I would say McTominay and MCFRED because sometimes it's used as a derivative insult. They're solid players, but United obviously wanted to play that 4-3-3, that more attacking style instead of the 4-2-3-1. To be honest, when Oli came, that is exactly what he played. He played, Herrera, Pogba, and Thingy. So, what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously, if Varane obviously comes into the picture, maybe we don't actually have to protect Lindelof and Maguire as well. So that's a thing. Does this mean, in a way, that we're going to be getting? Red Does. I think the tweet was from United Zone. Yes, I think you're right about that, Chief. How do you see that working? Do you think that we need to get a CDM for that to work, or do you think that with Varane, it might be something like, okay, playing McTominay with Pogba and Bruno, or Fred with Pogba and Bruno, or something like that?
But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with the 4-3-3 system. And when you look at a lot of the top teams now in the English football, the teams that Manchester United over the years have aspired to be like, so to speak, and to achieve what they have achieved. Hats off to teams like Liverpool and Manchester City, and the systems that they have played have been 4-3-3 systems. City obviously won the league without a striker last season, playing the false nine. Liverpool, their rock and roll system for the last 2-3 years under Klopp has been 4-3-3. When he's been given the time to get the players that he wants, and you can't exactly argue if Oli gets Sancho, he gets Varane, and possibly he even gets this centre defensive midfielder if it's Camavinga or whoever, to play that position, even if it's nobody. Even if you play McTominay or Fred there, just to have that option to, free up Paul Pogba to go and do what he wants. And Fred and McTominay aren't exactly one of the best to do that job if they are going to play the CDM role, but to free up Paul Pogba to go and do what he wants and to work alongside Bruno Fernandes. If you're going to mark one of them out of the game, if it's Fernandes, then you're going to have Pogba just running the show. If it's going to be the other way around, then it'll be Fernandes. So there's a lot to contend with, and to have one CDM, if you're going up against a Chelsea or you're going up against Leicester or somebody who normally play the one DM position, whether it's Kante or indeed whoever. Go up against two players that are of that similar to quality, so to speak. It's very hard to try and keep both of them quiet in a game. But if Manchester United did get the CDM over the line, I think if you would have said at the start of the window, you'll get Jadon Sancho, you'll get Varane, you'll get the CDM target. I think a lot of Manchester United fans would have bit your hand off to have taken that offer. But if they get the CDM in, then it's just going to boost even further, and possibly in years to come, it's not going to be a position to worry about because it's on lockdown by whoever you've bought. But I think the key point for Manchester United was it was either you buy somebody who's proven in that position or you buy somebody who can develop into that position. And whether that's going to be Camavinga, who is is been tested in every single midfield role. He's a brilliant tackler of the ball, driving at people, interceptions, that sort of side to the game. That's just the traits that you need for the CDM position. But even if you went out there and got someone more proven, you're going to have to spend money in the market. But given the situation that the Glazers put a lot of Manchester United fans in, where they're outside the stadium with banners and everything, hailing them off, serenading them off, should we say. When you have that sort of toxic, inside the club or whatnot, and games are getting called off and stuff, they can't afford to have that happen again. Because it's not just Manchester United that will get affected. Sky Sports from the day got affected with TV rights and everything, completely blew up, and they ended up fining the Glazers for it because they weren't able to broadcast the game. But if get the CDM position, and possibly a lot of Manchester United fans, I'm sure, would want somebody who's proven in that position. However, if you were going to make that sort of deal happen, normally it's going to take a little bit of time. So I would possibly say put a bit of patience on it. And Manchester United are doing one thing that they've not done in years, and that's strike while the iron's hot in the window. The Euros has been on. They already got Jadon Sancho through the door. Varane had an early exit out of the Euros. Right, we can target that player. Next player could be X, Y, Z, whoever. So. But no, get the CDM in, and then I think Manchester United will be looking very, very good to possibly play this 4-3-3 system that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I've been saying for a while that I think that Basuma would be nice. I mean, if you told me that, you know, if you said, right, okay, we could get Basuma from Brighton, and then for me, you could play Basuma with Pogba and then Bruno, you're balling,
Mm.
to be honest. So if, I would at least like to try, I know Van der Beek isn't a CDM, but for me, he at least, because the thing is, I see United, they seem to desperately want McTominay to play that role, position that Carrick role, and he's just not that, because Carrick, whatever you say about him, like he can pass better, and McTominay is a lot better driving going forward.
I think physically, he's got that build of a DM, really, and I think that's what's overshadowing. I think probably the coaching staff's decision of who should play there. And I think if you're going to choose Fred or McTominay, I think they are going to choose McTominay to play just because of the physicality side to it. And we saw if anybody watched the Copa America, you saw when Fred played next to a proper DM, he wasn't a bad player.
No,
when he played at Shakhtar, he played the exact same system and worked as a treat. But physically, I think he's got the build of that player, but the technical abilities they're just not there, really. That's the only thing that clouts the judgment of it.
Yeah, Red Devil Lab. I say Rice, but the thing about Rice is that Rice would be way too expensive. And what we also have to think about, look at this United side, is that like United have yet to sell anybody really this summer. I think one of the things, although I'm really excited of the incomings that's coming into Manchester United, we also need to look at the fact that like our outgoings have been basically next to nothing. I want, if we're not, so one thing, for example, if we're not going to be playing, if we know that we're not going to be giving our young players enough game time, then we need to be sending out those young players on loan. I'm talking about Shorotire, I'm talking about Elonga, I'm talking about, because to be honest, when the likes of Shorotire and Elonga came last season, they actually played all right. I was impressed with what I saw in my mind. Shorotire, Elonga, Diallo, when those players came, I was really impressed with what I saw. And in my mind, I was thinking, just what happened if these guys were given more game time? Were given more given more opportunities? What could we potentially have seen from these players? But they weren't. So if you're going to basically, I don't want a situation, a season where we have a situation where they just are on the bench or in the reserves not doing anything. Okay, so send them out on loan, let them go out and get more experience. That's, I think, what they need to do. And then
the best league, though. Sorry to interrupt you, though. The best league for players like Ngala and stuff, though, and Diallo. I think Diallo's probably that class above where he could probably fit into a Serie A or a La Liga, wherever. But I think players like Ngala and Shortai that we've obviously discussed about there, the Championship springs to mind for me with these sort of players. Just physically, physically to have that, where you're going to have the defenders bully you in a way, where give them a little shove over or whatnot. Get used to that sort of thing. Stand your ground in a way. And when you have this sort of development, this is why I think if we sent possibly Marcus Rashford out on loan when Manchester United were playing him at the time, possibly could have been twice the player that he is today.
Yeah, but he was English and he had to sort of fly the flame, so this was the thing. So, and where's the Diallo? I mean, to be honest, I've said this several times. I think that Diallo, there's certain players that I think need to be moved on, and Mata and Matic are at least, Mata, Matic, and Phil Jones are absolute definite. Phil Jones, I've still yet to really fully understand what's going on in that situation, to be honest.
He's not even training with the club.
Let's not even go there, man. He just I saw a report like McKenna's like, Phil Jones is working really hard in the gym. I'm like, okay, but we don't. Like you don't pay a player like what, I don't know, £150,000 a week to be doing like bench presses in the gym though. That's not how it works, So let's enough of that. So he needs to be gone. Matic and Mata are just past it. They're not bad players, but they're just past it. So not only that, so you will reduce the wage bill in that respect. The goalkeeping situation is something that I think needs to be dealt with as well. What's going on with that? And then, if I'm perfectly honest, likes of Pereira, okay, fine, you go back on the loan. If not, you need to go. Daniel James, honestly, I think this guy either needs to be sold or on loan. I really don't see. Personally, for me, I think Diallo has more potential than Daniel James. From the cameos that I saw of Diallo this season, for me, he's a better winger option than Daniel James is, in my opinion. Daniel James seems to be playing more like an inside forward, more and more as he stays at United, and he's really decision making not that great. As evidenced by the fact that you saw the type of goal that Diallo scored against AC Milan. That's decision making. You know what I mean? So and then of course, our defenders, we have if we sign Varane, you've got Phil Jones, you've got Baye, you've got Lindelof, you've got Maguire and so on. So is Rojo still at the club? Have we sold Rojo? Please tell me we sold Rojo.
It was released.
Okay, it's released. It's gone. Okay, fine. Okay. Whew. So, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm as excited as I am for these new players coming in, and shout out to SB for Shawberto Carlos, man. Sure. But again, what happened? We got competition in Alex Telles, and he upped his game. So I think competition is important, but it has to be good competition. And if you look at the starting 11 for Manchester United, you're like, right, do we have a good competitive player in the position that can compete? In goal, yes, we do. De Gea, Henderson, fine, that's it. Centre back, okay. If we get Varane, you've got Varane, Maguire, Lindelof, and then
you've got a solid partnership, but
okay,
there'll still be question marks over the replacement players if one of them gets injured. Really,
exactly. Be like, okay, if we get that for, it's okay. Left back, you've got Luke Shaw and Telles. Okay, fine. Right back, if Diallo's going back on AC Milan, we really need to sign a competitive right back for Wan-Bissaka because he shouldn't be playing every single game of the season. He needs to be pushed on. Midfield, that's where we have issues, I think, in my opinion.
We've got the numbers, just not the quality.
But not the quality. And Van der Beek, what are you going to do about that? And up front, obviously Marcus Rashford looks like it's going to be missing the first 2 months of the season. So with Marcus Rashford out, you're basically going to be left with, I think, obviously Greenwood, Cavani,
Martial.
Now Martial was for 4.
James
I assume
possibly.
Diallo will be there, and then obviously the others, So I imagine the front three will be Martial, Cavani, and Sancho. Which, to be honest, if Martial could play like he did not this last season but the previous season and not get injured, like that's not a bad. That's not a bad front three.
No,
that's not a bad front three at all. Especially if you can somehow get Pogba in that midfield, that is a good attacking lineup.
This is the thing though. That's not even full. This isn't even the full strength team, and it's not. Everybody can say, well, it's not the finished article. Get the CDM. Get the CDM in as well as signing players like Varane and stuff. Proven players. These are players that a couple of years ago Man United to get linked with, and everybody think, oh, never going to happen in a million years. Now there's that belief where, well, we can attract the top players because if you can get Varane in, Varane could. Let's be honest. If he was out on a free agent, he could have his choice of walking into any defence in the world if he wanted to. Is the club prepared to pay his wages? He could walk into any club in the world, and even if he just chooses to go to Manchester United, it shows rather than signing the contract at Real Madrid to go to Manchester United, regardless of wanting a new challenger or not. It's a big statement to make, really, and it's a big signing. It's just as big, it's just as big as the Sancho deal, really, for a lot of people. Because if he joins the league, if Varane joins the Premier League, I'm not even if he didn't join Manchester United, if he just joined the Premier League, I think the top 3 centre backs in the world are in the Premier League. Then the top 3 are definitely in this league because Varane, Diaz, and Van Dijk. You can't really argue when all of those 3 are playing at their best game. You can't really argue in saying that they're not the best. They're not probably the best 3 in the world, really, and they're 3 of the best clubs in England as well. So it would just prove the point even more. I
mean, sorry, I'm just noticing of SMB. SMB makes a very good point. Vice 21, England got, are they playing in Euros? Damn, that was of a youngest team. And this is, I know we're not. This is not talking about England. I mean, past the Euros, that's done. But what I did say several times in the thing was that, like, a lot of people say England are never going to get in this position. England are finished. England, whatever. And it's like, you need to just chill, just slow down a minute. It's like, this is in the previous World Cup, England were the youngest team. In this World Cup, in this Euro, sorry, England were probably one of the younger teams. I think they might have been second youngest, possibly. You know, so you've got a very, very young England team that's basically been to a World Cup semi and a final of Euros.
Yeah,
you know, this is insane. You know, so whatever you say about what happened to start with the penalty shootout, etc., this England team is when you look at a lot of the other big teams,
the future's bright.
The future's bright. You know, I love Italy. I'm sure. Congrats to Italy, but you know, as good as Chiellini and Bonucci are, they're not going to be here in the next 4 years.
No,
they're not. You know, they might not even be. They'll probably be fit for the World Cup because that's next year. But I don't think they're going to be there in the next Euros. Really, you know, you look at like Germany, Spain. A lot of teams that have either aging squads or young players that aren't really up to speed, that good enough. England have a good future, you know. So I think that they'll learn from this experience, and probably go into the World Cup better as a result, you know. Just any more questions? We're going to probably round up in a second. Thank you guys for those who are watching, to like the video. If you guys have any questions for me or Transfer Tom, please get them in. We're going to be doing just some brief questions, so let me know if you have some questions for us. I'm going to try and be doing a regular Q&A. I think from probably Monday evening. Yeah, we'll probably try and do a Q&A, which should be good. So stay tuned for that as well. Let me know what time suits people. Yeah, what the questions here? Yeah, Phil Jones, Mata should be in the MLS or China or not. I think they want Mata in a coaching role. It sounds like Mata, they're really pushing for Mata to get into a coaching job. That's what
I think his character. I think character-wise is, you know, we can say what we want about on the field he's finished or whatnot. You know, there's some players who can play the game and they'll be terrible. But in terms of the dressing room or characteristics, you know, you kind of need somebody in there. And having the experience that you have, like we've said, you know, well, we can have Matic and you know, Mata out the door. The experience that they bring to some of the younger generation, though, that are at the club, you know, we look at such as Hannibal, who plays a similar role to what Mata had played years previously for clubs like Chelsea and stuff. Plays a similar role to how they play. You know, pass down that knowledge to the next generation. Exactly like what Cavani's doing with Greenwood, the understudy, as a lot of people have called it. Because I'd put a bet on, if Manchester United are going to play a front three for the following season, it'll probably be Rashford, Greenwood and Sancho as soon as Cavani ends up leaving the club. As soon as he ends up leaving, I think that would probably be the front three that everybody would want to see. If not, then you go out there and buy a number 9. And you're not exactly short of names at that current time and at that problem either.
Fair. Right, okay. We're going to head off, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new channels, like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Tom, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. Remember to head over. We have my second channel, Red Marvel. Red Marvel will be doing a lot of comic, movie, game reviews, discussions, what have you. Links in the description. Is my second channel, Red Marvel. You can see a link in the description or it's on the channel page. So head over to that and let me know if there's any stuff you want me to cover. Yeah, guys, it's been good. It's been fun. Have a nice day, everyone. And cheers.
Peace out, everyone.